Hi, welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host of Deep Mood with my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the aftermath of the Ohtani deal, another trade the Dodgers made that potentially came after it. Then we're going to be talking about Coach getting the Chargers potentially cleaning house after the season, some Ravens and Steelers, and then ended on some exciting Virginia Tech returns in addition to the transfer portal. So let's start off with the MLB news. Obviously, the big thing last week we were talking about was the Ohtani deal. We now know that Ohtani has deferred 680 out of that $700 million. Does California taxes come into play on that one? Possibly. Are they trying to build another team? Sure. Could Ohtani be considering getting an ownership stake with some of that money 10 years down the line? Possibly. Well, what were your thoughts once you started hearing the details of this contract?
I didn't know that was legal. Like, I knew contracts could be deferred. A lot of the money could be deferred. The Nationals have been doing similar stuff, just not to that level. I mean, we saw it with Max Scherzer. We've seen it with Steven Strasburg. We saw it with other deals, Patrick Corbin, Jordan Zimmerman for a time as well. But I've never seen it to this degree for a superstar, especially with Ohtani. This just goes to show that, I mean, at some point, I feel like the MLB is going to need a salary cap. I just don't think this should be legal in a major sport in this country. But hey, it is right now. The Dodgers are using it to their advantage. And the only people you can be really mad at are, the people who are in charge of baseball. Like the Dodgers, they know they can do this. It's not against the rules. I mean, we've seen stuff in other sports like the NHL with teams circumventing the salary cap for LTIR to get cap space. And we've seen that. You've seen it. It's another, how do I want to say it? It's similar to that, but in a much larger scale. This is something that I don't think should be allowed, considering that he's not going to be getting basically any of that contract for the next several years. But it allows the Dodgers to build a more competitive team around them, even though they're probably the best team on paper heading into the season. And then you couple that with the Glasnow trade, they look even better right now too. It just goes to show how much money they have overall. So it's just a crazy situation in general.
Yeah, no, I think the result for deferrals, because currently this is also a lot to do with Ohtani's contract. The Dodgers have deferred between Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman over $700 million just from those three. Now, obviously, the majority is Ohtani, but I'm guessing they're probably going to do one of those. You can defer money, but at least 50% of the contract cannot be deferred. I think that would be the healthier way of doing things. Because I think the rule is right now, as long as the player makes the least amount of money possible, so like let's say $500,000. Like if Ohtani really wanted to, he could have done the $500,000 by 10, which is whatever that number is, and then deferred the remainder. Like that's how much he could have deferred. So there can be a way of doing it. I don't think you can't defer. I think it's a certain percentage of the money cannot be deferred. Yeah, so it might have to be like half the contracts. Like it has to be guaranteed within the duration of the contract, just to be fair. Maybe you do 70% or something, but yeah, you're right. This is definitely concerning because the thing is, big market teams have big reserves of money. They can do this. Small market teams cannot. Now let's also be fair. What are the odds that a small to mid-market team can afford Ohtani, right? So even before we get to that point, it would have to be, is Ohtani, does that team who's going to be financially disadvantaged by a potential deferred, do they have a realistic chance of going and getting that guy? Because I think Ohtani's contract is like worth more than what the Rockies owner or what the Reds owner is. So they can't afford to pay Ohtani that much money or some of these guys that much money. So one, it has to be feasible for the team, and then two, I feel like it does have to. Certain percentage of the contract has to be guaranteed within. It can't be the bare minimum per year. It has to be at least 50%. I think that's the way to solve it. As for Glasnow, he had his highest career in innings pitched with 120. He's hurt a ton, but here's the thing: when he's healthy, he's very good. He does have some control issues, but when he's healthy, he's very good. So this could be really good for Dodgers. He could also spend half the year on the IL, and even if you bring back Kershaw, he's going to spend half the year on the IL. So they definitely need to go out and get a Yamamoto or make another trade or whatever else they need to do. Obviously, the Marlins, they have a bunch of other starters. The White Sox have ceased, but it seems like the Orioles and the Braves are the two. I wouldn't say they're the two finalists because it does seem like the White Sox are trying to wait out, see if teams get desperate, but that's a risky strategy because if you miss out on Yamamoto, are you going to go for Shota Minaga? Are you going to go for Shane Bieber? So that could all Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell. So it could backfire. And apparently, when the Dodgers traded Papio, the White Sox weren't happy. They wanted Papio, like in a Dylan Cease trade. Apparently, they wanted Ryan Papio. So it's going to be really interesting there. The Braves made a small trade with the Padres. It was a left-handed pitcher, and Matt Carpenter. They tried to trade Matt Carpenter. Didn't quite work. Obviously, Matt Carpenter isn't very good. Now, I will say it was funny because the most recent video was him. I don't know if you saw this video. It was him in a Luigi costume hitting a single up the middle. Maybe they figured someone in a Mario costume was going to come with him. Maybe they figured Spencer Strider, because he has a mustache.
Oh, right.
Was going to like, but I just found that funny. I just found the video. You gotta look it up. But it was it's him in a Luigi costume hitting a baseball. I don't know if you played the Nintendo Mario game. I think it's Super Sluggers or something.
I played the soccer game on my Wii one time. That hour all the time. I used to crush everyone in that game.
Yeah, no, but they used to have like a Mario baseball game. I used to play that game a ton. I did play Super Strikers as well, all that other stuff. So, but yeah, it did kind of bring me back to it. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting what they do there. Nationals, I don't think they made another. I don't think they went out, claimed Spencer Watkins. He was on the Orioles for a few years. Not bad, but kind of like a 4A type of guy. The Orioles went out and got another reliever with a trade with the Royals. I don't know what it is about the state of Texas. I don't know if Elias and Sig Mejdal are nostalgic about their time in Houston, but they've made 5 main additions. Tucker Davidson from Texas, Sam Hilliard, they claimed from Texas, Drew French, their pitching coach. Guess where he's from? Texas. This reliever they traded for from the Royals from Texas, Craig Kimbrell from Alabama. I think it's kind of interesting kind of seeing where they are scouting. So that's kind of where and if they go get Dylan Cease, he's from Georgia. So you can kind of figure out SEC country is kind of where they are going for.
Right.
I just found it really fun. I just found it really funny because it just I kind of was like, okay, let me take a look at this guy. I haven't heard of his name. Good swing and miss rate. He does have some interesting stuff. The Royals don't really develop pitching. He's kind of young, but then I kind of saw where he's from. I was like, yeah, of course they got him. He's from where he's from. Yeah, that's basically all MLB news. Yamamoto's taking his sweet time, trying to figure out where he's going. Apparently, no team has offered him 300 plus.
I saw that was from Jim Bowden. Was that refuted?
No. Apparently, no. Teams might be thinking of offering him 300 million plus, but no one has officially offered him 300 million plus. Then you have And then you have another guy, international prospect, Roki Sasaki. He's trying to get posted. I can't blame him. Ohtani got 700. Yamamoto, who's 25, could be getting 330, 340, 350. Roki Sasaki's a 22-year-old fireballer who can throw. I think he averages over 100 miles an hour. He's like a phenom. He could potentially get 350, 400. A team might do that. Apparently, the Astros have had discussions from other teams about trading Framber Valdez. They have said they're not going to. The Marlins apparently have received interest from Zardo. It's interesting. And then the Royals spending a lot of money. I don't know how that's going to ultimately work out. And then obviously Bellinger, he must be smoking something because he wants 200 plus. And Scott Boras is like trying to make him look like more important than what he potentially is. So let's go to the next one. Rest of the NFL. Before we talk Ravens and Steelers, I guess the big news is Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco get fired. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, this was deserved, I would say. And it's funny. I liked the job that Brandon Staley did his first year with the Chargers until he didn't play for the tie in the final game against the Raiders, right? Like, you get that tie there, you knock the Steelers out, and you go in the playoffs. But he didn't do that. He coached his team out of a tie, and the Raiders went on to win that game. But still, you saw progress in the first year under Justin Herbert. Last year, you make the playoffs, you go up big in that playoff game. You're up by 20 plus points. I believe it was 24 plus points. And then you give up that massive comeback. I believe it was what?
27-0.
It was 27-0, right?
Yeah.
27-0. And then you lose to the Jaguars in epic Chargers fashion. Like, that's just a typical Chargers loss. This year, you have expectations to make the playoffs again. But you start out really slowly, more Chargers-like losses, defense regresses. Herbert plays well, but then gets hurt. And you're left with a coach who, again, shouldn't have a job right now. And I don't know if he's ever going to get another head coaching job. I honestly don't think he will. I think he's probably going to be a coordinator for the rest of his coaching tenure. It was hilarious that he thought he should remain the coach after that loss last week. But I mean, what else is he going to say, to be honest? But I thought that was a deserved firing the GM as well. I just don't think they've given Justin Herbert enough help. I mean, sure, you got Keenan Allen out there. You have Austin Eckler, who is awesome, but you still need a little bit more help defensively. It sucks that Joey Bosa has been banged up at times, but that unit still needs more talent. I don't want to hear about the Chargers heading into next season. They got the quarterback, sure, but he's going to have to get paid soon. You need more talent on offense and defense. I'm curious to see who they go after, but to say that I wasn't surprised by that move would be an understatement. I knew that one was probably going to be coming.
Yeah, this is how bad it is for the Chargers. Kellen Moore did not want to be the interim coach because he did not want to ruin his chance of being a head coach. He had Herbert as the quarterback and Keenan Allen as the receiver, Eckler. He could have made a good case. He said no. That's how bad this job is. Apparently, they're $40 million over the cap. They are going to be the Spanos family is not very good. Apparently, players have negative feeling. Like, ask Eric Weddle how he feels. He did not like it. I mean, I think a good comparison might be it's not exactly this guy, but John Fisher. He's kind of like a John Fisher type owner. The Chargers are going to be in a world of hurt. It's going to be really interesting what they do. If they do go get another coach, I cannot imagine young defensive mind. I feel like it has to be, because here's the thing. Justin Herbert has 3 head coaches in his career. How long has he played? 5 years? 3. He's going to be on his third. Yeah, third or fourth head coach.
He's probably been in the league only for a few years.
Yeah. There was so
excuse me, 4 seasons. I apologize.
Yeah, 4 seasons. So he's going to be next year. Actually, I think that was next year. He was going to be on his 3rd head coach.
Jeez.
So you really need to focus on finding someone to develop him.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if the coordinator from the Dolphins potentially could be a guy. You move him over, the Shanahan tree and everything.
I wonder about Clint Kubiak as well. Could he get a look for that Chargers
job?
That's
interesting. Yeah, Kubiak's also an interesting guy as well. So I feel like the next head coach has to be that guy. And the next GM, to me, I feel like it has to come from – I don't think so. I don't think a guy like Joe Ortiz from the Ravens. I don't think there's a guy from the Steelers. But it would have to be some – but it would have to be – and I'm only putting those 2 teams because given where the Chargers are at right now, they need to get someone that can bring stability to an organization, especially with ownership. And again, I just brought up because I think the Patriots, when a Patriots executive becomes a GM outside of New England, it hasn't really worked out. Ravens, Steelers, 49ers, do you think those are the teams that if you're Chargers executive, if you're in charge of trying to find the next GM for the Chargers, are those types of teams you're trying to model yourselves after?
I would say so. I mean, definitely the 49ers, I think, in my opinion, with how they've been the last several years. I mean, they've come very close multiple times to winning a Super Bowl. And I think, honestly, for that team, if they don't win it this year, I don't know when they're going to win it, to be honest. That's still a team I would modern mine after. The Eagles, I would obviously say, too. I'm not going to really put the Cowboys in there just because the Chargers. I don't think Dean Spanos is Jerry Jones, like, in my opinion. I don't think no one is really Jerry Jones, honestly. I would probably throw the Ravens in there. I think the Ravens are run really well. I would say the Steelers, but I don't know how much Art Rooney is really paying attention right now. And Omar Khan is a good GM, but he's only really been on the job for a couple of seasons. Outside of that, you have, I mean, it's tough because some of these organizations in the NFL are just so poorly run. I mean, honestly, I would probably put the Seahawks in there too. Pete Carroll's been a really good coach for a long time. They've had a pretty solid front office, I would say, for most of Carroll's tenure. That's a team that's usually in the conversation too. So I would put the Seahawks in there as well. I'm just trying to think of other teams that are really modern after. I can't really. I mean, the Chiefs. We can throw the Chiefs in there too with their front office and Andy Reid and all that. So I would say any of them.
Rams are in the other area, so maybe there is an executive. Maybe again, I don't know who's running, like the executives. The Rams are interesting because I'll say this about the Rams: they spend a lot of money. We can all make jokes about how they don't really have first round picks, but their mid round talents, they're the way they scout guys, they do a really good job. No one knew who Puka Nacua was. This guy might be the next. Him and Cooper Kupp.
He's been fantastic. I remember when the Steelers played him, I had no idea who he was. And now he's could be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. Or honestly, I think he should be in the conversation for that, I think.
Yeah, no, he went from do you watch have you seen I don't think you've seen Ted Lasso, but have you seen it?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah, so Danny Rojas, the guy who comes in in season 1, the guy who was like football is life. I was like, oh yeah, like Puka Nacua is like, okay, this is my first impression of him. Oh, he looks just like Danny Rojas. Yeah, like he kind of has that Danny Rojas vibe. And then he plays really good. He's really good. So I think but also that's kind of that's why I wanted to bring in the Rams potentially. 1, region, but 2, being able to get some of these guys that are that can take these 3rd, 4th round picks. Here's the thing. If it's Chargers, you got to take these 3rd, 4th round picks and you got to make them meaningful. Go and get an executive that can do that. Don't get an executive that's going to spend a lot of money. go again, because whether this team rebuilds or not, we'll see what happens there. Let's talk Ravens Steelers. Ravens played the Jaguars. It sucks. Keaton Mitchell, ACL, out for the year.
Running backs,
He's going to
running backs just cursed at this point.
He's going to be out for most of next year as well, given the timing of it. Melvin Gordon's going to come back up, so it's Melvin Gordon, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. So it's not the best. Oh, by the way, I think, and it's not like they can't really use Duvernay, because Duvernay also has a back injury, so he's out for a while. The game was a little interesting. Lamar throwing an interception, I think I texted you this. Here's a problem that I had was that if you saw, likely was in the flat and was wide open, and Lamar tries to sidearm it to, I forgot who it was, but then the guy just catches it. Luckily there was a fumble, but that was a poor decision by Lamar. The offensive line didn't really protect Lamar too much. Obviously, you saw some offensive struggles there. Isaiah Likely has done a really good job since replacing Mark Andrews. I'm going to make a joke here. That one catch, it was likely not going to be one before it became one. So, but no, it actually showed that one catch. It showed how dangerous the Ravens could be, because Lamar obviously was his mobility, the offensive line giving him enough time, and Isaiah Likely being a guy that at the beginning of the year, not a primary guy. Aguilar has made some more of an impact than people thought he was going to make. But yeah, I mean, and then the Rams, obviously, they barely squeaked out a win. I don't think that was a block. That's tough. There's momentum, and I need to see more from that replay. I understand
that looked like a block in the back to me.
Yeah, it looked like one. It looked like one, but I need to see more replay, because there's definitely egregious plays. Like if you extend out your arms, if you end up within midway through extending your arms, have your hands on someone's back and then push them, that's very obvious, a block in the back. But if you kind of extend out your arms and at the last second, while the guy is kind of running, the guy you're trying to hit is running towards the kick returner or punt returner, and he falls down and you make contact at the same time, that's where the gray area comes into play. So that's why I say I don't think you could call it block in the back, but it might not have been egregious. But good for Tylan Wallace. He's hasn't really had a signature play, but good on him for that. I don't think there's really, and then obviously defense has played well. The run defense is a bit of a concern. I know they were in. I know that and Dominican Sue was apparently interested. Said that the Ravens were interested. That's gonna be something to monitor. Congratulations to Justin Madubuike. I mean, I think he broke the record. I think he has 12 sacks, and he's in a contract year. I mean, that dude's going to get paid. That dude is going to get. That dude, he's not like a year or two away from being Aaron Donald, but you could kind of start to see the promise that 4 years from now, maybe he can be a disruptive force. But yeah, that's just on the Ravens. Anything I didn't mention on the Ravens, and you can talk about Steelers as well.
Oh, how long do you have? Is my question for you. I mean, it's just what a fall from grace. You're 6-3 heading into a stretch of backup quarterbacks I've ever watched, but boil over game after game. You can talk about what discussions you're having with him all you want. It's not working. The DeMonte KZ thing, look, I think it's a bad hit. But Adit, is that worthy of a suspension for the rest of the season? No. In my opinion, Adit, I think that's a joke. I think it's a joke of a suspension. If you want to give him a fine, sure. I'm trying my hardest not sound like a homer right now, but that was a hospital ball that Gardner Minshew threw. That was a hospital ball. And I get you want to get those hits out of the game, but why are you punishing a defensive player for trying to make a hit with his shoulder when the guy is diving right at him? Do you want these players to just catch the ball and not get hit? Because that's what it seems like the NFL is sending a message for right now with that. You can give him a fine. You can eject him from the game, yada, yada, yada. But a suspension for the rest of the season, because I know the Steelers aren't going to make the playoffs, a 3-game suspension for that, that's what you're willing to die on? I don't get it. Like, what did you think of it? Like when you saw it and everything?
That was excessive. I understand kicking. I understand throwing him out of the game and then fining him. That's fine. That's a dangerous hit. It was a little weird because, no offense to Michael Pittman Jr., he's not a premier receiver. So I don't even think that was worth punishing him at that point. And honestly, I think that it should have been a fine. No more than a fine. Just, hey, this was a dangerous hit. Here's a fine. Just pay the fine and you're good to go. But other than that, no, I don't think he should have been suspended for the remainder of the season. But yeah, I mean, I do have a couple of questions, though, about the Steelers. If Mike Tomlin were to go, two-parter. One, do they go internal or external? And second, who would be the guy right now? Like, if you had to put money on someone, who would that guy be? Because I
think they would go external, but I still at the same time have a hard time believing that Art Rooney is going to can him. I would do it. I just don't think Art has the balls to do it because this is, Eddie, this is an organization that doesn't fire coaches. Like this has never been who they are. I mean, this has been a thing for 50 plus 60 years at this point with this organization, 3 head coaches in the last 50 plus years. That's Steelers. But who would I go after? It's tough because I would want someone personally more offensively minded. You got to figure out what you have in this quarterback. You need to, hopefully he can stay healthy, but you still got to figure out what the hell you have in him while also probably getting some help, aka a better backup, like a 1B type quarterback that can come in if he gets banged up or if he's not getting the job done. Mitch Trubisky's not that guy. He's never been that guy. Mason Rudolph, who would start this weekend if Kenny can't go, he's not that guy either. So someone offensively minded. I would think it may be someone like Kubiak. I would also consider him for offensive coordinator too, because they're going to have an opening there. He's someone I would look at a little bit. But, the Steelers, when Cowher retired, they had Tomlin lined up. That's the type, and you need that type of coach, I feel like, but maybe on the offensive end, someone who
I thought of a name
young.
for you. I just thought of a name, but finish your thought.
Just someone who's young, innovative, who can come in, bring some fresh ideas, because that's what the organization needs. I feel like it's just stuck in the old ways. What they did 20 years ago is not working now. Even what they did in 2005 is not working now. And that's where I feel like the direction they need to go in. What I do think they will do overall, just because I know how the Steelers operate, is I think Art is going to give him this final year of his contract, 2024. And he's probably going to make it a break it year for him. And he's probably, maybe they'll bring in 2 hotshot new coordinators. I don't know. They should. But overall, this team needs some serious change if they want to start truly contending again. Because, winning seasons, that's not good enough here. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that's won 6 Super Bowls. You don't just go to the playoffs when you're a Pittsburgh Steeler. You go into the playoffs thinking you're going to win the Super Bowl every time. That's what this organization is known for throughout its history. And the Steelers haven't been to a Super Bowl in 12 years. They haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. This mediocrity right now, it's just not acceptable to me and the whole fan base. I have never seen the fan base this turned on him. This is really where it's been notched up. But what name or what did you think of for a replacement?
There's a guy everyone's been wanting him to be a head coach. He's an offensive head coach. Yeah, I'm thinking Bieniemy because front off, the organization is stable. You have a good defense. He's an offensive-minded coach. We are seeing the Commanders do a decent job. And here's the thing. You could always hire someone after him. And so in case it doesn't work out, because Bieniemy's up there in age, you could just let him go. Because here's the thing. You don't necessarily want a young hotshot, because I was thinking Brian Johnson first for the Eagles offensive coordinator. I was thinking someone like him, but then I was thinking that's too extreme of a difference. But what if they were to go get Bieniemy, who presents stability, and then get another offensive coordinator behind him that could be the long-term answer. That way, you get someone with experience, but still a new voice. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And the second,
it would make sense. I do want to see more of what he's done with Washington this year. I know Sam Howell has been up and down in his offense this year.
Rooney Rule as well came from Pittsburgh. The
right.
Rooney Rule as well came from Pittsburgh, so they have
right.
been a forward-thinking organization. So I do think that that could be a spot. Here's the other thing. You were talking about Mike Tomlin and how the message has not been clear. From the Ravens' perspective, seeing how Harbaugh went from Flacco to Lamar and seeing how they have bought into Lamar, they have made Lamar a leader, and they've been winning all these games. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers have won a good amount of games as well. Do you think what lessons do you think the Steelers should take from the Ravens in terms of because Harbaugh and Tomlin are both veteran coaches, but it seems like Harbaugh does have good 3 or 4 years, especially if he wants to get to 200, 210 wins at least. But it does seem like when you watch the Ravens, yes, they do have those fourth quarter collapses, but they play really hard for Harbaugh. And while the Steelers players play really hard for Tomlin, I think there's just a tiny bit of difference. Is there anything you could take? Is there anything Tomlin could take away from Harbaugh? Or do you think that the quarterback head coach, that's going to be the most important thing?
I mean, I think just preparation. I feel like the team just hasn't been as prepared like they normally have this year. I mean, and Tomlin called out his coaching staff today. He wasn't happy to the media. He keeps saying all this stuff. Oh yeah, we're going to make all these changes and stuff. We're not going to change anything at this point in the season. You can take that if you want to. I mean, I'll honestly throw analytics in. The Steelers, they don't really have an analytics staff. That's not how they've really operated throughout this century, at least for the NFL. I know Harbaugh definitely has, and he has some decisions that have baffled me. I don't think they need to go fully in that direction that the Ravens have, but I think you can kind of have a hybrid of what the Steelers do, and maybe you take some lessons what the Ravens have and some of these other more forward-thinking organizations have. You can blend them together.
And also, and Harbaugh has been more willing to go and get these more forward-thinking,
Tomlin, I think, could use for that. And he also could expand his coaching staff. That's another thing. The Steelers don't have a big coaching staff in the league. It's below average in terms of how many coaches are on their staff. And I think that's another big thing that if Tomlin comes back and he gets a make or break year, I think he's going to have to do that as well. But there's also personnel problems. This team needs more linemen on the defensive side, especially. They need a true groundbreaking inside linebacker. I mean, these injuries have been really tough on them, and they need some secondary help. You need help next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. You need another corner or two next to Joey Porter Jr. There's a lot of changes that need to be made to this team after this year. This is probably one of the worst collapses of Mike Tomlin's tenure. And again, I don't think the fan base has ever been lower on him than it is right now.
Yeah. And we're going to talk Virginia Tech athletics after this point, but I do want to bring up the point with Harbaugh also. He also has mentored some younger coaches from a few years ago, and then he's kind of also brought and let them grow and develop. So because you have Mike McDonald, who started as an intern with the Ravens and worked his way up. Chris Horton, the special teams coordinator, started as an intern, worked his way up. And then you even have Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for Michigan. Matt Weiss, before he got into his legal issues, he was an assistant to Harbaugh. You could kind of point with Harbaugh. He was mentoring guys. They learned under the Harbaugh tradition, but at the same time, they were also modern thinkers. So maybe, and you might have a better sense of this one, where I don't know if Tomlin had that idea where he was definitely mentoring guys, but it was more of here's the Steelers way. Versus he was mentoring guys and saying, hey, here's the Steelers way, but we recognize you have to be more modern. So here's the Steelers way, work with that as the base, and then be more flexible. Mike McDonald, I think he's Harbaugh's replacement. I think at the end of the season, they're going to have some head coach and waiting type deal with Mike McDonald. Say, hey, look, John Harbaugh wants to get to 200, 210, 215 wins.
I was going to ask, how long do you think John Harbaugh will stay as the Ravens head coach?
I think right now he's 3 seasons at least would be get him to at least 200 to 210 wins. It would be more than Chuck Noll.
Right.
I would say if once he gets to 200 regular and postseason combined, then he starts to think about retirement. Once he gets to 210, 215, 220, maybe then now you're talking about 1 or 2 years away. But also it does depend a lot on Mike Macdonald, because if Mike Macdonald is clear, I think that they are setting up that succession plan. If Mike Macdonald wants to be a head coach sooner rather than later, then I think Harbaugh's going to retire, because I think he respects Mike Macdonald to that point. So I think Harbaugh probably no more than 5 years. And honestly, don't be shocked if you see some announcement that when it's Harbaugh's final year, he's going to move into the front office and he's going to have a different role as well, kind of like what they did with Ozzie. That to me is where I could see that going. But yeah, we'll see if something like that happens with Tomlin. But yeah, let's move on to Virginia Tech athletics on a happier note. We do Tootin by Shell Tootin, the running back, came back. We have 2 defensive players come back, so we didn't really lose any. Obviously, players lost eligibility, but our main players are coming back, and we got back a good inside linebacker in the transfer portal, a good defensive lineman, and including a guy from Duke,
Peebles, Kamari Copeland, and Sam Brunfield. That's just big help where you need it in the trenches. Pollard's not there anymore. You had Payne, who's also not there anymore. You needed help in the trenches there. You got Cunningham for the offensive line. That's a big need, obviously, heading into next year. And then you got, I already said, the defensive line. You got the Sam Brunfield, the linebacker. They really needed every down linebacker, for their defense. That unit could be scary next year, especially with Delane coming back and Dorian Strong. And now offensively, you get a lineman in there. They're still not done there. If they can get another lineman and another running back, there's rumors that Ramon Brown might be committing back to Virginia Tech after he visited this weekend. You have Tootin coming back, Ali Jennings, who didn't even play this past year, Jalen Ling, Quan Felton, Kyron Drones. Indeed, the ceiling for this team could be at least 9 wins next year. And you look at this schedule right now.
2024 Virginia Tech, it could be 2023 Louisville.
I think so. I actually think if everything goes according to plan, they add more via the portal. Obviously, you guys still play the games, but you look at that schedule. The toughest games to me: Clemson, Miami, and Stanford. Stanford just because it's on the road. You got to go to California. Stanford wasn't that good this year, but those are like 3 of my toughest games. Maybe Duke is. I know Duke is on there too, but they'll probably be decently tough too. But you can definitely win, I think, 9 games on that schedule. I'm not going to go 10. Not yet. I want to see them play some games and want to see what else they do. But I think they can potentially go 9-3 and maybe get a berth in the ACC championship. I'm not going to go as far to say 12-team college football playoff. Virginia Tech's going to make that. Let's pump the brakes. But if they can win 9 games next year, that would be another big accomplishment for this program.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, like losing Ollie Jennings, who knows what that could have done, like how it could have actually changed games. No, you said everything. We're retaining all the important pieces. Another year in the system. We're bringing some new players in. Who knows? Let's see what happens. So we'll see what happens there. Do you want to do a show either next week or a week after, or should this be the last show of this year?
Let's think. I could do a show potentially next Sunday, I believe. That's also Christmas Eve, but Saturday I'm traveling.
It's up to you because
we can figure it out. We'll either be back next week or the week after potentially for New Year's, or if we're too busy, we'll definitely be back early in the new year for sure.
Yeah. All right.
So
thank you for listening. And we'll see you within 3 weeks, I guess.
Right. Later, everyone.
Later.